what is social anxiety? Well, it has a huge lifetime prevalence in North America. About 12% of adults in North America will meet criteria for social phobia or social anxiety disorder. It's the third most common psychiatric condition after major depression and alcohol substance abuse. Third most common. It has a very early age of onset. 80% of cases of social anxiety begin before the age of 18. In fact, the modal time of onset is really about age 10, 11, 12. And it's often undiagnosed, untreated, or even if somebody shows up for treatment for anxiety, the clinicians usually don't ask about social anxiety. So it usually occurs early, and it usually precedes the subsequent development of major depression, substance abuse, and other anxiety disorders. The other very important thing about social anxiety in its early age of onset is that it's associated with the highest high school dropout rate of all of the anxiety disorders: OCD, panic, generalized anxiety, agoraphobia, et cetera, et cetera. So this is really why people are interested in going younger, younger, younger. So what is social anxiety from the first-person experience? So for all of our participants, we asked them to identify 4 painful social situations. This client offered the following. At a job I had about 6 years ago, I was supposed to introduce myself to a group of 5 or 6 new employees. The president of the company was speaking first, and then I was supposed to say a few words. My anxiety grew to such a heightened level right before I had to get up to speak that I needed to leave the room and the building. I had to take a walk for about half an hour before I even got up the courage to go back into the building and to admit to my manager what I had done and how I had failed. So we actually use these scripts, autobiographical scripts, as stimuli in our brain imaging studies. Induction of a specific, painful, social memory. This is about as real as it gets. Then we also ask people, with respect to that situation, your own situation, what are the automatic negative self-beliefs that arise? This client offered, what's wrong with me? Why do I get so nervous? I'm going to get fired for not being able to do this. The president must think I'm an idiot and wonder why they hired me if I can't even speak to a few people. If I get up there, I'm going to blush and either throw up or pass out. So mental tripping, cognitive distortions, fear of physiological arousal that I'm not going to be able to control. So one model of social anxiety, a cognitive model, says the following. When a person who has social anxiety is in a social situation, it triggers a distorted view of the self, the social self. I'm not good enough as I am. I'm going to screw up. This means the situation is appraised or evaluated as, this is a dangerous place for me. This is threatening to myself. And then there's a very rapid attentional shift to self-focused attention. So much so that in studies where you have other people who say, hey, no, you're doing fine, you're doing fine, the person is so internally aware, internally driven, they don't process external information, which of course reinforces the disorder. And this leads to safety behaviors, not showing up to work, not making eye contact, not speaking up or being assertive when one needs to be. For example, not going to parties, bodily or somatic and concerns and problems, diarrhea, et cetera, cognitive problems, negative thoughts, et cetera. Here I'm going to be focusing on attention as one way to probe the brain in people with social anxiety and how mindfulness might modify the neural bases of attention. So the big question here is integration. Can we take incredible, beautiful, elegant technology that West has to offer, which is to basically go under the skull non-invasively and image the brain while it's doing what it does? And ancient wisdom traditions of methods that have been used for 3,000 years of how to work with the mind, ways to actually identify and begin to modulate mental patterns. Can we integrate this? A full description of a phenomena would really entail all of these levels of granularity. In my lab, we're looking at genetic predispositions to people who have different anxiety disorders, to who will benefit from cognitive therapy, from mindfulness, from medications, how this influences molecules, neurons, neural circuits, and then cognition, emotion, behavior. This would be a full explanation. Here today, I'm just focusing on brain and cognition, emotion. I'm going to give you a one-slide primer on what is the dependent variable in fMRI, functional magnetic resonance imaging. You're lying in the scanner on your back, like the woman you saw a moment ago. And then what I do is I present you with a negative belief. People think I'm socially incompetent. You read that. This triggers firing in specific populations of neurons having to do with language processing, self-reflection, that activate neural circuits, brain systems, not just specific areas, but circuitry, that then says, hey, the neurons are firing. Please send more oxygenated hemoglobin, more cerebral blood volume, cerebral blood flow to the areas where neurons are firing. Bring more oxygen, bring more glucose, because the neurons are consuming energy. And then we, through a lot of signal processing and statistical modeling, try to infer what are the parts of the brain that are active when a person is spinning on a negative self-belief. So it's a whole series of processes, of steps.